Hello there, everyone. This is your host and Chief Editing Officer, Gabi, coming at you this week with episode 307, momentarily on its way. We hope you enjoyed last week's episode with Jerry's new dear friend, Tom, or as I call him, Mr. Vassal. But this week, we get back on track in our discussion of the mini games played at BGG Spring a few weeks ago. We discussed Macher, Gaia Project, Square on Sale, The Climbers, Duck and Cover, and Path of Civilization. I think all those are the correct names for those games. I hope so. But also the primary purpose of this particular intro is to let you know I have also attached to this episode at the very end of it. So after me and Jerry are done talking about the games we played at BGG Spring, we have an interview with Jerry and designer Jason Blake of Cysmic, a sci-fi game spelled Cysmic, which is currently on GameFound until June 28 at 10 p.m. Which 10 p.m.? I'm not quite certain, but anyway, most of June 28th is the last day to support Cysmic on GameFound. And of course, the link will be in the show notes. And per the description on GameFound, Cysmic is a dynamic tactical sci-fi board game for up to 6 players with expansion, set on the crumbling surface of a distant planet. Assume the role of a faction leader destined to become a colony ship commander. Use cunning, tactics, and strategy to ultimately build your massive 7-piece colony ship. Pledge now to be the first to launch your colony ship and win. So there you go. Anyway, enjoy the interview after the show.
Welcome to the Board Game Snobs podcast. Critically harsh reviews with a touch of class.
And go.
Welcome to the Board Game Snobs podcast. This is your titular host. And no, I'm the star. Who's the host? Gabi's the host.
We're both hosts.
No, you're really the host because I don't act as a host. You act hostist.
Hostess?
Yes.
You
act like a host.
Round, chocolate, flavorful, somewhat cake with cream in the middle.
No, you're thinking of Ding Dongs.
Ding Dongs. Well, that can be a Ding Dong.
The Hostess is the company.
Hostess, but they call them Hostess as well.
I've never heard that till just then.
There is a Hostess specific cake.
There is?
Mm-hmm.
A cake.
Yeah.
And it's so the brand.
You call it a Hostess.
I don't think so.
I am correct.
Hostess cake. I'm looking it up. Are you sure it's not just slang? There is. It's a Hostess chocolate cupcakes. Hostess singers. Hostess. I don't think there is a Hostess sheet cake. It's just Hostess whatever.
Yeah, whatever it is, Hostess.
But
that's what it is.
No, that's not it.
That's what it is.
No, it's not. I don't think there is a single item that's just named the Hostess.
What's that first one?
That's the cupcakes.
Oh. No, there's the one where it's like it looks like a hockey puck.
That's a ding dong.
That's a ding dong?
Yes. You're spreading misinformation.
I stand corrected.
Yeah, you're just seeing the Hostess and thinking that's what it's called.
I want the
Hostess,
ding dong.
There is no...
I'm a ding dong man.
Yeah.
I'm a ding dong
Yeah,
man.
ding dongs.
They're my favorite. Put them in a freezer.
Yes, they're great.
Overnight.
Snowballs.
I don't like the coconut.
I like coconut.
I'm not a coconut guy.
And
I like coconut directly from the coconut. Like scoop it out.
Like shavings.
Put it in my... No, I don't know. I do not like shavings. I like the actual skin inside the flesh of the coconut. I will eat that, but I don't want shavings.
You don't like the white part, the meat?
I don't
like coconut
meat.
meat?
I like the meat of the coconut, but don't make it like rice and give it to me in shavings. I don't like that texture.
Just because it's been...
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yep.
Huh. I don't know if I feel like that's a good thing. This is Jerry. I'm the star. Either way.
This is Gabi.
We just got by. We introduced... This the whole thing was your
And we're
introduction.
back.
Because you keep messing up the Hostess. I'm the Hostess cake man.
I'm a host.
Yes. We got back from BGG. You brought the crud to the con and gave it to me.
Sorry.
That's fine. Probably. I hope Bruno's all right.
R.I.P.
Right. Hope Chad and Tim and Betsy.
They're all okay.
Whoa, Betsy.
Bam-a-lam.
She's probably
They're all
sick.
okay.
They're all sick. Either way, hope David didn't get sick from your nasty germs you spread to everybody. I hope Tom's okay.
You're dear. My God, Jerry will not shut up about Tom.
Who?
Oh, jeez.
Anyways, my point being, we have things we have to talk about, and we have many episodes.
We don't have time for a meaningless chit-chat. Get to the games.
Yes. we played a game that we had played previously. I forget what episode we did on it, but Macher, or as we say in America, Macher, because it's spelled die, but that's not how it is. It's not how it's pronounced. And you had deep thoughts on it. You acted as if you enjoyed it.
I don't know that I had deep thoughts on it. I had deep pleasure in it.
Okay.
All up in
Deep pleasure.
Deep pleasure of Macher. Well, here you go. See, that's what I was doing all con.
Cough con.
Okay, so without having the game, anything in front of me, this is my favorite game of the con, period. We played a bunch of good games. Yes, I counted, I don't know, I played like just from Friday and Saturday. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Like, I don't know, 13 games or so, several of the smaller ones over and over. But we played big games, which we'll discuss. But of the big games, the ones that took, an hour or more is what I consider a larger game. Macher, for me, hands down, absolutely my favorite.
Really?
And something about this round of the game that we played, the first time we played this game, I remember enjoying it, but I had such a hard time grasping everything that we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably didn't really get it until halfway to whatever, 3/4 of the way through. This time, as soon as Jerry explained it, I was just grasping things left and right. I was shocked with myself because I'm not a real good grasper.
No,
when you
not.
explain, we played The Hunt, a very simple 2-player game. I was having issues.
You were on the
getting
hunt.
some very
Yes.
easy concepts down.
Yes.
But Jerry's like, we do this, we do this, we do this. And you do that you repeat the same thing 4 times in this game. It's a long game. I think ours was several hours.
Yeah, it's a 2 to 3 hour game.
No, we played longer than that. But it was absolutely amazing.
So it's the oldest game on BGG, I think. It was the first game ever listed, if I'm not mistaken. Well, Aldi...
The first game listed, not the oldest game on BGG. That would be Go or chess.
Right.
Obviously.
But it's the number one game that they stuck on when they started off.
They started off with this game. Somebody posted it. Who posted it?
I'm sure it was Aldi. Like that was the game that was out at the time, I guess. But it's a very well-respected Euro game based on German politics and elections, which is such a weird theme to have.
Indeed.
And the board is circular, and it has these little... It just looks like a bunch of tracks. And so when you just glance at it, even especially this, we played with the Spielworks edition of it. It just looks... The game, you would have no idea how to play this game if you just glanced at the board or what was going on. But it's true. It has, number one, this very large player aid, 2-sided, about the size of a page that you give out to each player that walk you down through the 9 different phases that you're going to do. And they all make sense once you've done them. But I think that what changed is that the first time we played this, I was teaching it, and I had an idea of what the mechanics did. I didn't know how they interlocked. This time when I taught it, it's been a long time since we had played it. I stayed up the night before. I watched the video, read the rule books, and was like, okay, why do you want to have the media marker out there? What does it do? Why is it good to have control of the media? And how does that tie into the next stage? Or why do you want to use these little shadow agent cards that go out and manipulate things? When should you do that? And when we played the game, I took the time to explain that during the round. Of not only this is what we're doing, but this is the strategy behind it. So I think it clicked a little bit more because I understood not just the functionality of the game of how to play it, but I knew how everything interlocked in the strategies. And I taught that as we went. This is like, okay, now just put out here, you're going to spend $5,000 and we're going to go around. Everybody, if they want to, is going to put out a media marker. Well, why? Well, because if you get media marker and you have control, well, then you're not going to take bad press when we do these poll cards later. And also you can swap out the opinions and affect the opinions of the people there on that side of the board. It all made sense. And as we went, I taught the strategy, not just how to play. And I think that's why everything clicked. And that first round was long. Mm-hmm. But then after that, second, third, and fourth round, we buzzed through it. And even Enrique, who had, and Bruno had not played this game, and Bruno beat us, if I'm not mistaken. I think he got the win. Rike got stomped this game, if I'm not mistaken. He almost clutched it our first game. But strangely enough, this is a very dry. It's a very dry game. There is a mild bit of negotiations and some at the end if there's a tie. But other than that, it's just
there's bidding.
Yeah, a lot of bidding and a lot of trying. You figure out where you want to manipulate these tracks. It's track manipulation, basically. And being able to think far ahead in advance.
It's almost like it reminds me of a stock market game. You're manipulating these tracks, and depending on where you end up, you divvy out dividends based on that type of thing. I mean, that's not the theme of the game, but that's what it reminds me of.
Right.
Yeah. However, even though you are playing this game 4 rounds, and after the first round, you have it, I would say it is a heavy game in the fact that you go through 9 phases or however many. Not once could I just go without my player aid.
And I think that's why they knew that ahead of time, which is why they gave you this big menu-sized player aid that's front and back and said, this will just prompt you all the way down. There's no need to try to remember it. Just use this player aid and go to the next. And that's fine. I think that's smart to have a player aid that is essential to the game.
No, actually, you came in dead last on this one.
Yeah, I did not do well at all.
Yeah.
I ended up, and again, keeping my record, if I teach a game, I lose it. But yeah, I think the first time we played this game, I really enjoyed it. And this second time around, keeping with my want to play older games, replay games at these cons or ones that we learn ahead of time. Yeah, I'm glad I brought this one. It's a 3 to 5 player game. And I think this one's going to stay in our collection. I like this one.
Oh, I absolutely love it. It's fantastic. This play of this game, not that we ever, one of these days we'll do a top 10 again. It moved smack dab into my top 10. This was fantastic to me.
I'm going to remind you that our top 10, we're due for it.
We are indeed.
We are indeed. So we might as well start the lists.
Did this guy, Karl-Heinz Schmiel, did he make anything else? Is he a one-hit wonder?
No, he's not.
He's wearing a safety vest in his picture.
I think he made something else.
Was he a crossing guard in his spare time? A la carte, St. Petersburg. Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. Yes,
Tribune Primus Inter Paris. Oh, this guy sounds smart just from the games he makes.
Just because you can't pronounce it.
I can't pronounce them.
Well, I can't pronounce them either.
A la carte means on the side, right?
Uh-huh. Well, Macher or Macher means the makers. But I think that's the direct translation. I think it means the makers, but I think it connotates the power movers. It's basically the movers and the shakers. It's to make things happen, I think.
To be the oldest game in there, it's still 424. It is a heavy game. It's a complex game. It's not to say that it's not something you can't understand, but I would say it's all like when Jerry was going through all the phases and he kept going and going and going. I was like, my God. And that's round 1.
Right.
So it is a lot, but it is worth it.
It's a 4.3 weight on BGG. I don't think I would call it that heavy. I don't think I would.
It's not that you know what to do. It's just so much to do. It's just so much to remember.
Yeah, it wouldn't. Unfortunately, you don't have to remember it.
Right.
You just have the player aid and you just go right on through it. But yeah, it's very complex, and that's it. Probably his highest ranked game.
Player aids.
Player aids are the way to go. But yeah, Macher, what a great game. And
my number 1 of the con.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. I wish Bubba was here or Chad. Because my number 1 at the con, I believe probably Bubba's as well, is John Company. We replayed John Company again, and thoroughly enjoyed it. Bubba played it without me, with another group. He was in the second game of it, and thoroughly enjoyed it, and went on about it. So he's more of a. I think I've gotten into the habit of these cons wanting to have a game such as Macher, where I've learned it ahead of time and it's more complex and can teach it, and also having a long game like John's Company in it,
or John,
whatever it's
non-plural. I liked, not that I got to participate, but Oh, you did Gaia Project. Did you enjoy Gaia Project?
Yes, it still frustrates me. I don't know quite how I feel about it, mainly because I get the same feel from it as I did the game with all the gears from the makers of Teotihuacan. Shoot. What's the gear game? Everybody knows the gears.
Oh, Zulkin.
Tzolk'in. Yeah, I get the same feeling. Like Zulkin was such a game that was so hard that it feels like you're failing from the beginning. Like you never feel like you're getting something going.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing is true with Gaia Project. You're just one false move away from being beat down anyways, and even if it feels like you're doing everything right, you're still struggling throughout the game. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. The theme, it's hard for it to have that complex theme of terraforming planets and setting up your little federation. It's neat. I'd like to play it solo. I keep messing around and not doing that at some point in time, just to see if I can't get a better handle on what I'm missing in terms of the scoring. But yeah, Gaia Project was really good.
I wanted to play that. I was sick. I didn't make it. That was Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
You know what Gaia means?
It's like I looked it up.
The earth personified as a goddess.
Yeah. It's
daughter of chaos.
Yeah.
Mother of guess.
That's mother.
Mother of who?
Not nature.
Uranus.
Mother of Uranus. It's Uranus.
She's the mother of Uranus.
It's Uranus. I don't know why you refuse to pronounce it correctly.
Because then it's not as humorous.
It's not meant to be humorous.
Because it's Mother Uranus.
Okay. How is that funny?
It's good.
How's that?
It's
no,
good.
It's not good. How is that funny? Rick Moranis.
Rick Moranis.
Ripped
Moranis.
Rip Torn's brother.
That's what happened when I ate a bunch of cheese.
Taco Bell.
No, Taco Bell will clear it out.
We don't want to hear about that. Which, strangely enough, speaking on your nasty topic, we got to play, Enrique, I, and Bruno got together with another individual that they met in line, I think, Chad and them. His name was Ben, and he had a variety of little small games. And so one night, I think after you left, we went up and just played these random things. One was a game called Squares on Sale. It's a Japanese game from 2005, and it's nigh impossible to get a hold of. But basically, it's this little, it's not even a board, it's a little cloth thing you throw out there, and you just have wooden cubes. And all you're doing is placing the little wooden pieces of money out with what they call a timer, which is just a little block that has 2 dots on it. And then when you're done, you flip it over, it has 1 dot on it. And then the next turn, you take it off, and that means you're done. That's the timer. Where you're bidding on squares to build your blocks. And it does the whole Othello thing, if you've ever played that, where you surround something and you flip it over. Instead of flipping something over, you add your square on top of the other square. So it looks like you're building these little square buildings. That's the whole idea of the game, is just trying to outbid people. Money's tight, and the money just comes back to you. It's weird. You just have to play it because it was very abstract, but also very neat to see your little buildings build up. Reason I bring it up is because of your very lewd comment there regarding fecal matter. The gentleman that we played with had a house rule in all his games. So when we started off, he says, "All right, who goes first?" And then he looked and he says, "I'm sorry." And he says, "I have a house rule." He says, "Always ask, whoever pooped last gets to go first." And I laughed. And I said, he said, "That was just my rule that I had." I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, I figured it. If you're bold enough to admit it or to lie about it, you deserve to go first." I'm like, "Oh, that's a good thing." So we're playing this game, right? All right, get done with it. We had one more. We wanted to play the Climbers, which again is a block game where you're just building a mountain and moving blocks around like Jenga type style, and moving your little person up, trying to get them certain just climb as high as I could. Very neat little game. While we're there setting this up and cleaning up the other game, Enrique jumps up, runs to the bathroom. It's right there by the deal. I said, while we get this other one set up, we get ready, and the guy says, "All right, I'll explain the rules." He says, "We're missing somebody?" And Enrique comes out of the bathroom and he says, "Going first." And we got this all die laughing because Enrique's playing 4D chess. He's thinking ahead of time. There's a game coming up. I better. But
take care of business.
Going first. So anyways, There you go. I thought you'd appreciate that.
I do appreciate that.
Even though you don't appreciate
I would go first all the time, though,
No,
unfortunately.
you would not.
I do.
No, you would not.
I would.
I guarantee you wouldn't.
How so?
Because you don't use public restrooms.
Well, there's a difference between public and a hotel room.
No, there's not.
I will use a hotel room.
No, there's not.
It's not public to everybody at that time.
Yes, it's public.
They come in there, they clean it.
No, they do that in the regular bathrooms. It's public.
No, they do.
It is too. It is public.
Although going in after Enrique, I would be iffy to do so.
You take Imodium AD when you were the truck driver, so you wouldn't have to stop and use the bathroom, which that has got to be awful on your gut health.
It's true. My gut health is good. I've been hacking it.
How have you been hacking your gut?
Been eating good stuff.
Like?
I'm a kimchi man.
You ate kimchi one time?
I eat all the time.
You just have kimchi.
But it smells the house up, though, really bad. Really bad. Turns out fermented cabbage has quite a strong smell.
Yes.
And also, sometimes they get it there and they have, for whatever, shrimp-like seasoning in there.
Uh-huh.
So that doesn't help the smell either. It's quite the smell, but it tastes so good.
Kimchi. Mm.
I thought you were going to talk about duck and cover as well.
Oh.
On the poo topic.
Oh, that one?
Yeah. So the duck and cover is just a super simple game of you line out these cards in a stack of 3 rows, 1 to 9 or 12.
12.
And the person flips over a card, calls it out. If you have that card in front of you and it's not covered up, you can either move it to a different location adjacent orthogonally, or you can cover up a card next to it orthogonally. No, I take that wrong. I was incorrect. You can move it to any location next to another card, or you can cover up any card orthogonally adjacent. Stupid game. Absolutely ridiculous. But when the person calls out that you don't have, that you've already covered up a card, say you've already moved the 9 onto the 12, so the 12 is covered up, and the guy flips over the 12, you quack.
Mm-hmm. If everybody at the table quacks.
Everybody quacks, then that card is dismissed from the round. You do 6 of those, rounds over. You count up the poo on each card, basically the card.
Because everybody knows ducks make a mess.
And so there's duck poo on all the cards, and whoever has the most poo at the end of the game loses.
Correct.
So basically you want to cover up your higher number cards, and there's a slight bit of strategy to it. But it was silly fun and just saying quack.
My silly fun came from the fact that everybody got tired of doing the quack thing, and I thought we weren't going to do that.
Our quacks were like going down in enthusiasm. We're like, quack, quack, quack.
I started into my Jeff Goldblum quacks. Quack,
quack,
quack. Yeah, that was it.
And then that merged into the 1940s guy.
The 19...
Quack.
Well, yeah, all the ducks are out there like they're the 1940s. What was that accent called?
I don't remember.
It's not the
old-timey gangster man.
Yeah.
Quack.
Quack. Why does nobody talk like that now? Why can't we bring it
They're
back?
all gone. We could.
They could.
I think it was a forced affectation. It wasn't real for the movies.
It's just like they do it. I take it back. They are still doing it.
Who?
California. The whole, the Valley Girl thing. Yeah.
Vocal fry.
It's not even a vocal fry. It's because it's the tone. No, it's not that. It's they do. So you want non-fat milk in your latte? It's not. It's what is that?
Uncut Gems.
Yeah, she says uncut jams. So there's not that. It's not the fry. It's a elongated, like, I don't know.
Uvula.
Elongated uvula.
Elongated? Uvula? David!
No. David's uvula, I'm sure, is fine. It's where, like, why did you park there?
I'm not understanding what you're saying. You're talking about like the way the modulation goes up or down at the end.
It's like they push it down, but they elongate it.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Well,
where's my car?
That's not a fry. I don't think that's
well,
a fry.
The fry is the breaking of the voice. Like, I'm not saying, where's my car? I'm going, where's my car? You hear that?
Yeah, but a fry is there.
Which you do it a lot. You have a vocal fry.
Yeah, I do that.
Pretty hardcore.
Well, I do it purposely. Because
No.
I do too.
No, you do not do it purposely.
I do when I put...
You have it, and it's usually when you're like tired.
What?
That's exactly.
Well, I do that purposely.
No, you do not. You do it unconsciously.
No, if I lower my voice and I'm trying to talk low, I do that.
But you're not thinking here. I'm fixing to vocal fry the crap out of this.
Yeah, I like doing it. Does you want me to
you
stop?
You like doing it?
Yeah. Do you want me to stop doing it?
It is kind. I don't like hearing it all the time.
Why not?
Because I like to hear a voice spoken. It's like, it's like, no, I want your voice to project. It's a lack of forced projection,
which is what you're an expert on.
That's why I go first in most of that guy's games.
There you go. Okay, so I can try.
So that was we did that when we were playing Path of Civilization, which we may have mentioned briefly somewhere else in another episode. But that one, that is the one that you say is very Seven Wonders-ish. It has the same art or same symbology or something of that. The guy actually used the same artist, right? Is that what he said?
Yeah, I think same company.
So that's going to obviously make people think of it. And there are a lot of similarities in that there's simultaneous actions, which is very nice as far as moving the game along at a quick pace. And then at the end of each round, you kind of have this battle phase because it is a civilization game. And if you're up on this track high enough, although the battle phase doesn't really hurt you if you don't have enough, it's more of a point system.
Right.
I liked this game and the fact that it's very simple. And I like the way the different, much like you were talking about Die Macher, but in a completely more simple way. In this one, all of your symbols connect to other symbols. If you trigger this one, well, it's going to affect this one. And when you affect that one, it's going to circle around and affect this one. And it's just
woven,
weaved, wovered all those symbols. And like you cannot really focus on one because they all affect each other.
And weavers. I'm glad she showed up because people used to have to weave their own Sigourneys before she did.
Or dreams.
Sigourney Weaver.
I got you.
And then you didn't laugh a lot on that one.
Well.
Or project, please. Well.
It was okay.
Well, we can go over your vocal
Sigourney?
Sigourney? What about Gurney?
So yeah, in Path of Civilization, we played a full game of it too. We were going to demo it, but I think the guy was really excited to play. The captain,
Francois,
for Captain Games, he was like, well, he has it's not severe. It's just a Belgian accent.
He's severely Dutch.
Thick.
He's severely Dutch. That's what you was about to say.
No, I'm just saying his accent was thick.
It was.
And it was hard for me to understand exactly what he was saying all the time. But yet he explained it very well. He also had no room for tomfoolery.
No.
If
you did not.
And if you were not looking and paying attention, he would get your attention.
I appreciated that about him a lot. That's what I appreciated about Francois.
And then,
man after my own heart.
Here's the thing that kind of dragged the game down is at the end of every round where you get these new cards that become available that are either monuments or leaders. And he would go through them one by one, explaining every detail of what they do.
Yes.
Even though after one or two rounds, you know what all the symbols mean. You know what they do.
No, you don't.
Yeah,
you did not.
No, it was very simple. This game was very simple.
You did not have a clue.
But he read the entire thing.
That's why he kept yelling at you. Are you paying attention?
No.
Yes.
He was yelling at you and Enrique.
Oh, no.
No, wait, Enrique wasn't even there. Who played
yes,
with us?
Enrique was there.
He was?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's see. And I'm the one not paying attention.
Well, I was focused on my civilization. As far as that goes, the theme is not there. Like, I went from lawnmowers in your war thing, I went from like bow and arrow straight to jets.
Yeah, well, that's how it does.
But I mean, it's just a silly game with this thing slapped on it. It's basic, and that reminded me of the Stigmeyer game you hate.
Tapestry. Crapistry.
Like, this is a Civ game, but the civilization part really doesn't exist. I mean,
the difference is that this game actually has a mechanic, not just moving a cube.
You're not just rolling dice and moving up a track.
Yeah, that's basically. And the thing that I liked about this game was that it very much resembled Seven Wonders. What did I say?
It very was resembled.
I'm high on guaifenicin because you made me sick. Okay. So
Gaia Finnison.
He took
Mother of Uranus Finnison.
I'm finna be done with
The
this.
mother of, Ammonium AD should be the mother of Uranus because she's keeping it clenched up, preventing you from having to...
Commodious.
Commodious. That's a good one.
That is a good one. You should run with that. Get it? But you can't. You got to run. Why is this episode degraded so much? Because we're both sick.
Path of Civilization is a okay game. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the play. It's not a game I would go out and buy.
If you'd ever want to play a game of Seven Wonders without the drafting, if you like Seven Wonders...
Although we did draft the cards at the very beginning of the game.
No.
Yeah, we passed them all around.
Did we?
Yeah.
But those, I thought you started with the same starting cards.
You are correct. Never mind. Ignore me.
I am. I think that's, it's like there's just no drafting, and which I find to be interesting because that's like what Seven Wonders was known for, was 7 players playing at the same time simultaneously. Oh, you all do this drafting thing. Whereas at this, no, it's like, let's just not draft. You just manage your own cards and you buy a card. You end up 5, you pick 4, you trash 1. And you do that each round. Buy another card. You got 5, you pick 4, you trash 1. I thoroughly enjoyed this game, and I remember saying at the time I'd play this over Seven Wonders. I'm not a huge fan of Seven Wonders at all, but this to me felt more of a that whole jump thematically from being your warfare stuff, your archers, now you have jets, now you have bombs. I wish they would have gone less modern and kept it more along that path, because there's only 4 levels of each type of the civilization track. Just because I think that would make it more thematically cohesive. But other than that, I enjoyed this game.
Because the cards you can purchase are in levels 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so you have, philosophy, agriculture, the same things that are in every game. And so you can purchase, I don't forget what the first level was. Maybe that was the bow and arrow.
Yeah, it was.
And then you can go up to like guns, jet planes, and then the top one's the A-bomb. So you can start off with the A-bomb, really, if you want to. You just got to save up on this track to purchase it. And when you purchase it, you spend everything from that track, drop it back down. I like that mechanism as well. I like those trackers where you're not going back and forth with money or whatever. You just keep it up on this track, move up the track. When you spend it, drop it down that many points on that track. Yeah. I love that in games.
Tom liked it too. He said that was like one of the better games of 2023. He told me that.
When you're at lunch together without me?
No, that's when we were in the exhibition, the pre-show that they let the media people in, the press. We were walking around.
Press pool?
He pointed that out and said, this game here.
He said, when you're like, I got to play it. Tom said so.
Yeah, I did. Tom said it was good.
And it was okay.
Well,
it's okay. It's good. It's okay to good.
It's okay. Okay. I'm just saying, Tom.
I'd say it was good.
Tom thought pretty highly of it.
Good, not great.
And Tom thought pretty highly.
I'd give it a 6.5. I would play this with like me and you and Enrique we might play it like one other time, but it's not one we would go back to.
No, I think it'd be one that we would like. Nations kind of scratches the same itch, and that whole card thing, that 3,000 Scoundrels, if I'm just going to play a game where I'm shuffling cards around and things of that nature, I mean, there's other options that I would play for it, but that, I will say this, it's a game that I would definitely play over something like Mosaic. That was awful last year. Well, Mosaic reminds me,
ain't heard of it since.
Jason Blake, who his Game Found game that's out right now, that Cysmic I posted on Facebook about. That's the game that Enrique liked. That was a couple years back. He had prototypes and we were playing, and that's the game that stopped me and Enrique from playing Mosaic at that convention, because I had checked out the big box and was about to learn it, and this guy Jason was like, let's play this game here, and I was like, all right, it's a game I'm designing, all right, and we went and played it and enjoyed it. And so I looking back now, I do not regret the fact that we played that game multiple times and did not play Mosaic, because Mosaic was dry. And I don't hear anybody talking about it now.
No, because it was not good.
But if you're that type of player, like you enjoyed Mosaic or games simply like that, then Path of Civilization, certainly check that out. From Captain's Games, I believe. And
Cysmic, spelled Cysmic.
Yeah, that's his Game Found game. Which nobody. It's a rough name to figure that out. Seismic, you think of like Tom Sizemore
or SY. I'm going Immediately.
Yeah.
Cysmic.
Cysmic?
Cysmic.
Maybe it's cysmic. Maybe there's cysts
You
popping
should
up
have put
over
a T on there.
bunch of cysts
Cysmic.
popping up all over this
You're
planet.
just battling cysts. You're a cyst battler.
Mm.
Cyst.
It's
battler.
systemic. Systemic cysts.
Yes.
It is a good game too. I actually like Seismic a lot. Either ways, that's going to do it for this episode. I'm going to get over this cold, and we're going to actually talk about the rest of BGG. We had the mega game that we all played. Hopefully Bubba will come on and we can talk about his experience with John Company and my experience with John Company. Gabi played Shadows over Camelot. We played a bunch of smaller games like Skull and Scout and Vocal Fry. Played a bunch of stuff. We had fun.
Rex
was not a small game. So yeah, we got a good old time. Oh, Skyrise, which
Oh yeah, that's a popular one. You need to discuss that. That'll head up our next episode. Skyrise coming at you in the next episode. Until then, I'm Gabi.
That's Jerry.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tolerating this episode of The Board.
Not yet, Ben. We still have Jerry's interview with Seismic designer Jason Blake right now.
And so your actual name of your company is Starreach, is that correct?
Yes, Starreach Games. Yeah, I came up with that just kind of a lot of people think it was because of Seismic, but I actually came up with Starreach Games because it was my wife and various other people were always like, oh, you're always reaching too far, and it's a little corny, but it was the whole reach for the stars thing. And other people are like, well, now you can only make sci-fi games. And I'm like, no, it's not about that. So yeah, Starreach Games.
You got to start somewhere. And I remember when we first met a couple of years back at BGG, we played Seismic. Have you changed anything about it since then? I know you had pretty well the working prototype of it was all pretty well put together by then, wasn't it? Except maybe the art.
Yeah, some of the art has been updated. I think when you played it, the board was actually still square. I hadn't gotten to a point where it was an actual circle. I mean, it was always a circle, a planet board. But, the prototype, I think when you tried it in 22, maybe, I had not gotten my final laser cut, round board at the time. The graphic, of course, on the square was round, but that's obviously finished. There's a variety of new factions that have come out since then. I've got 18 factions in the game, and then in the campaign, I had a pledge tier that was limited for 6 more factions that are going to be based on backers who paid for that privilege to be inside the universe of Seismic. So there'll actually be 24 different factions, and there's a few other things. I mean, I'm always tweaking wording and other things, but by and large, the version you played was pretty much the version that's going to be going to the manufacturer.
And I believe at that time you were saying you had worked on this game since what was it, like 2017 or something like that? It seemed like y'all had.
It was a long time, yes. 2017 was when I first started putting together my components, but my actual original Google Doc is from November of 2016 when I started kind of brainstorming all the notes involved. I had all these different names. I had all these different themes I was going to work with, and the one that just really stuck was this one. And I really started getting into the design and the idea of it and all that. In very, very early 2017. And by the end of 2017, I actually ended up at BGG with a working prototype. Now, it was very, very, very different back then. But yeah, it's been 8 years in the making to get to this point.
And it's by the time this episode's already come out, it's already funded. So this is congratulations, you've already got that knocked out. You're just adding in stretch goals and things of that nature. So this thing's already fired up.
Yeah, and it's kind of bittersweet at the same time. Obviously I'm over the moon that it's funded, but if you tracked it all last year, I went to Kickstarter first. This time, of course, is GameFound, but I went to Kickstarter last year and I put my all into it last year. I mean, I was all in 100%. We're talking like, just eating and breathing everything Seismic. And last year, there was such a mess. Kickstarter actually, and if you've been reading the updates, you know a little bit about this. And of course, it's also on the campaign page. But Kickstarter basically just messed up, and nobody knows why. Nobody will own up to it. And it was some kind of technical glitch. And the entire Cysmic campaign on Kickstarter was all but invisible. And there was a number of problems. There was a number of issues. I obviously had a great core group of people that were following the campaign who jumped in and started getting things moving. But I was basically in a void. I was just sitting there. And so last year, it really broke my heart. I sat there and tried to get this thing to market, and just it seemed like the whole world was against me. So my wife, I literally took a year to kind of just hold back and just, because I'd lost so much money and lost so much time and effort to try to get the game funded. And then this year, it was probably around January, and my wife was like, "You've put all this work in, you've got to try one more time." And she really deserves all the credit for me saying, okay, I'm going to give it another shot. And that's what I did in January. I started working it up again, kind of looking back at some of the things that people asked for. And I went ahead and decided, okay, I'm going to run it again in May, late May, and let's see what happens. And sure enough, we had a huge response. And of course, like you said, we've already funded. We've, in fact, just an hour before this recording, I unlocked the second stretch goal. So I say bittersweet, but it is an amazing, amazing feeling, an amazing opportunity to have it already funded. But it has been a heck of a journey getting here.
I bet so. So was that the impetus for going with GameFound this time? Was your bad experience with Kickstarter? Or?
Yeah, it was. And, I almost chose GameFound last year. The only real problem with GameFound, of course, is that they just don't have that massive amount of traffic and brand recognition that Kickstarter has in the market. But on the other hand, what they do have is a very dedicated audience of actual board gamers, which Kickstarter does not. Kickstarter is of course just a generic platform for anything and everything. So you do have to go to GameFound with an actual audience that's somewhat built in. So you kind of have to build your community ahead of time. But yes, that was part of the catalyst on why I went over there. And I also saw at GameFound, games like Cysmic seem to be more appreciated over there because it is big. It's epic in scope. It's certainly more expensive than your standard, off the shelf, Target-ish board game that a lot of things go and get funded over at Kickstarter. So that was, there was a variety of factors, but obviously after the Kickstarter debacle, that's probably the main one on why I went with Game.
Yeah. Well, also your marketing for Cysmic. I was kind of just paying attention. I follow the algorithms a little bit, and I noticed seems like about 3 weeks before the launch date, it started popping up in my Facebook feed. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I was like, oh yeah, all right. So the Facebook gods have realized I have been in the vicinity of Jason. And now it's like, oh yeah, he's got a game. I was like, okay. So you did a lot of advertising through Facebook or other avenues?
Yeah, I built the community over obviously that whole period of 8 years, but it's still to get that exposure, to make sure that people are aware of it. You have to do your traditional advertising. I've tried to do, actual one-on-ones. You yourself, I got you and Gabby to come over and to try it, and you guys were interested. You gave me your time, and I said, hey, why don't we do it? And so that's been part of it along the way, was really just me out there. I almost feel like a politician or something, where I have to go make those one-on-one connections with everybody along the way. But it is tough. It's, there's so many games out there. There's, and there's just, God, the glut of crowdfunding games and even retail games still coming out. It's how do you stand apart, and Cysmic already has table presence and people do stop and look. But at the same time, you have to build that community. You have to build people, you have to get people to actually take notice, and not just take notice, but then be invested. It's Seismic's not for everybody, but at the same time, I think a lot of people have invested in it because of their connection with me as well, because I've been out there at conventions trying to drum up people's interest, trying to show it off, trying to teach people. And there's been a really good response to that. So I feel pretty good about that.
Seems like also you've had you ran this, I keep wanting to call it a Kickstarter, but it's not crowdfunding. There you go.
Well, you can still say, you can say Kickstarter because it's like a brand name, right? Like a jet ski or a Band-Aid, right?
Yeah, GameFound needs to come up with their own saying. They need to come up something with the founding. You ran this founding.
Yeah.
Here, I'm going to trademark that for Luke Pryor. You've done this founding really well. You had your own little intro video to the game, and it seemed like just observing the campaign itself, it seemed like this being, you had the one Kickstarter prior to that, but with this, it seemed like did you have any help with setting up this campaign? Because it looked rather well done.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks. I really do appreciate it. I mean, there's, the Kickstarter, I had a team of people, basically. There's no doubt that I had a lot of help, and I paid a lot of money to a lot of different people involved in everything from, videos to, graphics to, just the consultation and knowledge of how to go through the whole Kickstarter process, which I didn't know a lot about. I mean, I'd been doing my research, but it was still very, very difficult to navigate. So the problem was, of course, after the Kickstarter failed so miserably because of all these technical glitches and other problems, this time in January, I said, you know what? I'm going to do it myself. I'm just going to do it 100% myself. I don't have the money at this point to pay a bunch of people. But, and also I kind of wanted to do things a little differently this time. I built the campaign on transparency. I built it on the idea that it really is a passion project. It's not, it's not some corporate, money-making scheme with a bunch of, really shameless, thinly veiled cash grab stuff. It's just I'm throwing it all out there. It's like, here's my production costs, here's the cost of the game, here's why I've made certain decisions to try to save a buck here and there for us to be able to make this. And that's also why my funding goal has been so high, is that I just said, you know what, and everybody told me, don't do it, don't put this crazy funding goal, nobody's going to back it, and I had all this all these different people involved last time, and I was getting pulled 100 different ways on what to do and what not to do. So this time, everything with the GameFound campaign is 100% me. I've done everything from beginning to end. I am literally the only one involved, and I'm doing all of the correspondence with each person in the comments. I've literally responded to every single person individually on every update, on all the main campaign comments, any emails I get. The updates I do, all the graphics for the page, every word written on there, it's all me this time. And I didn't get any help. And of course, I still had some people like advising me outside the scenes going, don't do this. Hey, watch what you say about that. And, and I just ignored all of it. And I just went for it this time. And it actually seems to have struck a chord. So I feel pretty good about that.
Well, I was one of those naysayers at the beginning, if I recall correctly, back in 2022, after we played your game, I said, man, this is going to cost a lot to produce. And I remember very specifically you said, yeah, well, people will pay, for a game that has a bunch of minis and all this. I'm like, well, yeah. And I said, but you need to cut this down. You could cut this game back and scale it back, and maybe you'd get somebody to publish it. And I remember back then, even your response was, no, you didn't want somebody else to publish it. This was your game. This was what you wanted to put out there, and you didn't want it touched. This is what you were sending out into the world, was what you wanted, which I found fascinating at the time, because I knew if you took this game to a publisher, that's exactly what they're going to tell you. It's like, oh yeah, you've got the production, the amount of money it would cost to produce this game it's going to cut into every ounce of your profit. You're going to barely break even, maybe. If you try to publish something like this. And so it is just interesting seeing your passion about this. It's you wanted to maintain some control, or all the control over this game, and still try to put it out there.
It's interesting because a lot of people don't know this. The game in 2017 was actually under publisher contract. When I first came
Really?
up with Cysmic, yeah, a lot of I don't really talk about it a whole lot because obviously it was so long ago, and it was actually a very well known publisher picked it up the very first time I ever brought it to a convention. In fact, at BGG, no less. I had a contract within about 2 weeks of leaving the convention. And it was like I was walking on clouds. You know, I mean, anybody who's ever designed a game to be picked up as a debut debut designer with a crazy idea, the game was signed. And so the game was out of my hands for a period of almost 2 years under contract. And what happened near the end of that, they brought in somebody else. And they had a developer, and this is all standard, of course. You know, they bring in a developer and they take the idea and they look at it. And what a developer's job is to do is typically to look at how the game operates, how does it function, and then go from there to see, how they can improve it, how they can streamline it, and all that. What happened with mine. And to be fair, the original game design is nowhere near what it is now. But of course, still in my mind, what happened is they came in and basically threw literally everything out. And the only thing they saved was the theme itself. Almost no mechanics of the game were left. And there were some units and then the basic overall idea of the objective, which is, to launch your colony ship and get off the planet first. So we're talking like they threw just about all of the work and effort and everything that I did out the window. And that didn't sit well with me, of course, and a lot of designers obviously want some control, but there's also another group of designers out there who are fine to just hand somebody a game design, have another company, fulfill it and streamline it and, develop it and all that. But I just did not like the direction that they were going with it. And so what happened is my contract actually ended up expiring. And instead of renewing it, I said, hey, listen, it's been great. But honestly, I think I'd like to just go ahead and take it back. And that's what I did. And I sat on it for about 2 months. Another company, a very, very well-known company, was going to pick it up. I sent them the prototype. Had a great meeting with them. They were really all in. And however, their catalog was so absolutely different than Cysmic that we decided after we got very close to the point of pulling up a contract, we got really, really close. And they decided, and I decided, that their audience may or may not be very receptive to Cysmic. And they were also a fairly small company, even though they'd have great successes. They just thought, maybe you're right. Maybe we should part ways and just shake hands and say, good luck. And that's kind of what I did with that.
Yeah.
And then
we could have been playing Tiny Epic Seismic.
Absolutely. I cannot tell you enough how close we were on that. And then what's even crazier is in 2020, right before the pandemic, okay, this was late 2019, I was still not going to self-publish. That's how close it was for me to come to market. I was actually going to sign up with, and I'll tell you what, I'll say this one out loud because this one was kind of a bullet I dodged, I guess. I was actually going to get signed with Peterson Games of Cthulhu Wars fame. However, if you are, of course, following and educated about the crowdfunding world these days, poor Peterson Games has been going through hell and back, trying to get their name back to something approaching, having integrity again. They've had obviously lots and lots and lots of problems, and I do feel for them. I think their heart's been in the right place, but man, oh man, did they have some struggles. So there was a very short period of time when I was about to drive up to Sandy Peterson's house, play the game with him. And he thought the game was great. In fact, there was discussions of even Cysmic becoming part of their star. What was that game that was about to come out? Oh shoot! It was part. They wanted to make. Do you know the name?
Yeah, it's kept ill. Not that hyperspace.
Hyperspace. Yes. Sorry. Yes. Perfect. Yeah. It was. They wanted to actually take Cysmic and roll it into their hyperspace universe. and kind of build that IP up. And I was actually okay with that at the time. I really like all their designs. I trusted them to understand what I wanted more than some of the other publishers, because they already were known for these big over the top crazy games. And so I felt like I was probably a little better at home with what they were going to do and how they were going to produce it. And then, of course, the pandemic happened. I couldn't get up there to play it in person. You know, the whole world shut down. And then, of course, little by little, they ended up suffering severely. And by the time by the time the pandemic had kind of ended, my wife, I sat there and I was just like, God, 3 publishers in a row and things haven't worked out. What am I going to do? And my wife was just like, look, just stop. You have all the skills to be able to do this yourself. Go to market, make it happen. And I was like, oh God, this is terrible. This is probably a horrible idea. Okay, let's try it. And so here we are. It's crazy. It's 2024 and Cysmic is funded and I'm the one doing the whole thing. It's absolutely nuts.
Well, that's rather unheard of, to take a game concept and to prototype it and then to walk into BGG or any other convention and have that offer from a publisher that quickly, much less free, over a period of time. I mean, because I'm interested in game design myself, and every designer or publisher I've even talked to about, the development process of a game, taking a prototype to a company, 9 times out of 10, they're not even going to look at it. They're going to turn it down. So you said your prototype to Cysmic, met up with the publisher at BGG and just showed them their working prototype, and they were ready to sign the contract with you by then. That's very interesting.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the reasons why was, I did have Cysmic out there in the open play area at BGG. You've been a million times, just like I have. I showed up in one of the big halls, one of the biggest hotel ballrooms area that I could. It was I got lucky because I set it up on a table that was in a fairly high traffic location. And when that particular publisher came by, they were looking for big games specifically. And then on top of that, when they happened, and it was just sheer happenstance, when they happened to walk by, I had a crowd of no less than 20 people around the table, and the game was about to end. Somebody was about to try to launch their ship. There was all kinds of excitement, and people were like, "What is this game? Tell me all about it." So clearly, there was more of a time there to take note of something than when you're walking into somebody and just going, "Hi, here's my prototype," and then you open a box and then you hope for the best that it makes a good impression. So there was a little bit of luck involved, and of course, again, Cysmic is just not your current standard 13-inch box game. It's going to be noticed, I think, just about anywhere. So I think that helped in being recognized as something that a publisher would take note of more than just any idea. So I felt pretty good about that.
So your design process with Cysmic, well, what exactly? Because a lot of people will tune in and listen to, especially first-time designers or people that have had some experience with doing Kickstarters or game founding. What exactly was your process here of development? Like, did you spend a few weeks working on the idea before you started the prototype, or how much effort and money did you pour into the original prototype of this game before you started taking it to conventions?
I'll tell you, it is an interesting idea. I really do like to talk about it. There's a book I read one time, recommended to me by a good friend of mine, and it was about Stephen King's process. Now, whether you like him or hate him as an author is beside the point. The interesting thing about how he writes is he lets a story be told by the characters and the theme that he comes up with. So in a nutshell, what he does is he comes up with a basic, kind of a basic premise. Like, if you take The Stand, for example, he's like, it's post-apocalyptic, let's people have to try to figure out how to come back together and create a civilization and, blah, 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 blah. And what he does is he builds this huge group of characters in a database. And apparently he has this all the time, this massive, massive database of all kinds of characters that he has, meticulously detailed out. And what he does is he takes those characters and then he just drops them into the story almost arbitrarily. And then he says, okay, here's this character. How is this character going to react to this situation, to this scenario? And how would they go about solving, this dilemma that they've been put in? So I do the same thing just naturally, but I do this in all kinds of things that I've designed. I've been a YouTuber in the past, and I've done video work, and I've done I ran a series for a long time over at Escapist Magazine called Real Physics, and I've been involved in all kinds of interesting creative endeavors. But the way that I started with Cysmic as a game designer is I said, I don't care about mechanics. I'm not somebody that sits down to a board game and says, ooh, I like worker placement, or I like spatial puzzles, or I like deck builders. I don't, the mechanics have to serve the theme. So what I started with is I said, okay, I don't want to play a spreadsheet with art. And, euros are great, but, there's 1,000 euros at any given moment that all feel, like a spreadsheet with art on it that you can basically kind of math out and solve out. And of course, you can add enough, probability and statistics to make it different. But at the end of the day, I'm like, points are kind of just arbitrary goals that you're trying to do in a game that has very minimal theme. So what I wanted is I wanted people to have like an experience, I wanted the game to be cinematic. So when I came up with the idea of a planet that was, falling apart and it was an objective game, I had just recently prior to that played Nemesis by Awakened Realms. And, if you haven't played it, you know the game, right? Have you played it?
Oh, yeah.
It's a great game.
Yeah,
now,
oh, yeah.
It's polarizing because a lot of people don't necessarily like it. It's a game that has a little bit of luck, but and some people may argue a lot of luck. But there's some very wild mechanics in that game that you can literally flip a card over and you die. I mean, it's that kind of game. However, when I was designing Cysmic, because I said, okay, I want a cinematic experience, almost like as if Michael Bay had made a board game. So I want all these crazy things going on. And I said, okay, if I've got my objective and I know what my story is, what do I need to do? What is a person who is in this scenario? What resources do they need to be able to solve the problem of getting off this planet? Well, first they need a ship. So then I was like, well, if you got a ship, though, the ship, if you've just learned that the planet's falling apart, you got to build a ship. Okay, well, how can I go about building an actual ship? And at first it was just kind of the idea was a 2D board. And, I was like, well, that's kind of lame. I want it to, again, that tactile toy factor, that big, miniature experience. I want that. So I said, I want to have the players actually interact with the miniatures. So that was how I came up with the colony ship. And then, of course, along the way, it was like, well, how do I build the colony ship? Well, I need units to go out and get, various resources or whatever. And I came up with the idea of the units. And then little by little, I kind of started saying, okay, well, how does the planet fall apart? And I came up with the trimmer tracker, element of the game that actually accelerates as you play. And then with the hexes falling away, that was how the double layer, game board came to be. There was everything that I've done with Cysmic is theme first, and then the mechanics are there to serve the theme, never just be game, basically just gamified. That was never the intention. It was always this game mechanism needs to serve the theme first so that the players feel like everything is intuitive and they're actually doing things that involve them solving the problem at hand, which is survival and getting off the planet first. So, I know that's a long way around, but that's kind of the idea behind how I went about it. I know a lot of people are completely the opposite. They start with mechanics first, and then they just slap on a theme that kind of half makes sense near the end before publishing. So I wanted to go the completely opposite direction. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that was my direction.
Well, as a Euro gamer, you could have at least have thrown a rondelle in there somewhere for me. It is interesting because I recall the first time I saw the game, the miniature. I mean, you literally build a rocket with like 4 or 5 different pieces of a miniature.
Yeah.
That I think I described as being grotesquely oversized at the time. Of like, why would you have this? Well, it adds to the theme of what you're doing. It's interesting that, yes, a lot of designers begin with the mechanics in mind. Like they already have a foundation laid and then they go the route of the theme or vice versa. Or they have a theme and think about the theme and then try to, tack on various things. So that is interesting. You're, most people, when it comes to this crowdfunding, you kind of have to strike out and find your own artist or artwork, commission that, also manufacturing, distributing. What challenges did you face with that, or were you already kind of had that dialed in, kind of knew where you were going to go?
Oh man, that is another epic story in and of itself. I don't know whether I just had bad luck or if this is pretty standard in the industry. I have heard that it's kind of standard what I went through. But, I do all of my own graphic design. For all of my early prototypes, I did all of my own design work. I work in Illustrator and Photoshop and even 3D Studio Max. I've made all my own miniatures initially. Everything was all my own stuff. But of course, once I started getting ready to actually say, okay, this is a real game, I need to actually get real artists, And so what I did is I went out and I went on to ArtStation. I also went over to DeviantArt and I started looking at various people that I kind of like their style. And I just sent them a message. It just said, hey, I have no idea whether this is something you're interested in. I like your art style. I'd like to see if you want to help me do some art for a board game. And I did this countless times, 50, 60, 70 times, in a week or two. And then I'd get maybe 1 or 2 responses and, I'd talk to them. And then some people would be like, it's not for me. And then other people would be like, I don't know. I work for Disney. I don't think I can do that right now. And I'm like, oh, sorry. I had no idea. And then, there was other people who were like, oh, heck yeah, I'll do that. That sounds great. We'd come to a basic term and everything would look good. And, money would be involved and art would start coming my way. And then they just disappear. And all correspondence stops and they fall off the face of the earth. And I'm like, was it something I said? We had a great relationship. There was no issues. Everything was fine. And then they just disappeared. And this happened to me. I cannot begin to tell you. I mean, just countless times, no less than 5. And even then, at the very, very last minute, I had hired a graphic designer who was also kind of a pre-press guy to get everything ready for manufacturing back in December of 22, right before I was going to go to Kickstarter in 23. And I had a great relationship. The guy was doing great work for me. Everything was good. He came highly recommended. And sometime around late November, I was like, hey, listen, okay, we're getting close to Kickstarter time. I just need to finalize this stuff. Let's continue on. Let's do this. Let's do that. And, then I didn't get a response. And I'm like, well, that's weird. This guy's been great so far. He's been responding regularly. And then I'd send another little note and he'd send like just a vague response. And of course, most of these guys are in Europe. A lot of them are educated in art and art theory. And it's like that's kind of their careers as they've chosen to do this. So I'm communicating with all these people. Of course, time zones are different and sometimes there's minor language barriers and so forth, but never had any kind of actual like conflict or anything. And even that guy, after it was all said and done, and the guy's a super nice guy, but he just went away, and it was the most bizarre thing. And I even knew other people who knew him. And I was like, what's up with this? And they said, oh, well, he's having some tough times right now. And I'm like, oh my gosh, well, how can I help? And they're like, no, he's just having a tough time just getting to work. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I hired him. I got a game here. Like, what do we need to do to continue this? I mean, he's got like half the job done. What am I going to do? So, the guy just literally disappeared. And then like 2 months later, he just pops up and acts like nothing happened and just goes, okay, man, I'm ready to get going again. And I'm like, dude, no, I had to do everything myself now. I can't go back to that because I had to pick up the pieces and run with it. So it was, I had countless things. I had the same problem with 3D modelers. I had multiple people who were getting the models that I had taken and was, kind of upgrading them and improving them for manufacturing things. And I'd have like 4 of the 6 models ready. And once again, they would just disappear. And it's just crazy, man. It's just crazy. I just don't know how anybody ever gets a game made.
I don't know. AI art's going to put all these people out of business anyways. That's probably why they're having trouble coming to work.
Well,
and I honestly feel like that's why Ian O'Toole and Beth Sobel do all the artwork on the games. They're the only artists that show up to work.
I completely agree with you. I really do think that's why there's a very limited number of artists that you see in the industry. They're they're the ones that do the work, and that's what they're here to do. Some of these other guys, I just don't know. I don't know how to vouch for them. They're fantastically talented. And it's almost like they need an agent or something. It's like they need somebody to kick them in the butt every morning and say, okay, man, you got this job you signed up for. Now let's go get it done.
So is Cysmic going to be, is this your only game, or are you planning, you gotten something else in terms of what you're thinking, an expansion or something else lined out?
So, I made a promise whenever I brought this forward. I made a promise to all the backers and the people involved in the campaign that I was never going to, quote unquote, start another project or another game until Cysmic is on everybody's doorsteps. And I stand behind that. However, a lot of the stuff that I want to do in the future is 100% on my list. And I have about 8 other games that I've actually already basically tested enough that probably with, less than 2 months of development, I could have ready to go. Now, I'm never going to go back on my word about, trying to start producing another game in the middle of Cysmic or anything like that. Cysmic is I'm kind of going in reverse. I'm kind of doing the Benjamin Button style of, game design, because what's funny is I would consider my magnum opus to be Cysmic. Almost every other game that I have is much smaller, much simpler, lots of, very cheap to produce. And it's just funny because, of course, had I thought of all those ahead of time, I would have probably started with some of those. But my heart belonged to Cysmic. It's been where my head is for the last 8 years. And even though I've come up with these other ideas and I've kind of play tested them and everything, I would love to bring them to market if everything goes, solid and swimmingly with Cysmic. I'd love to do a second reprint for Cysmic and maybe more expansions in the future. I do plan on supporting it quite well. But yeah, I actually do have about 7 or 8 other designs right now that I could, in a fairly short period of time, bring to market with a whole lot less grief than Cysmic for sure.
Oh yeah, and that is typically the advice that's given to new designers: is don't make the big game. You make a card game, do a trick taking game. Get your feet wet with something small. Don't go for this big box, extravagant game. But you see a lot of some of the best studios, board game publishers, or things of that nature that have come out of Kickstarter. Is Stonemaier Games. Recently, I was listening to several interviews that Jamie Stegmaier did, where Euphoria and Viticulture put Stonemaier Games on the map. And then you look at the Near and Far and Above and Below. What is his name? I've played poker with the guy, Ron Lockett. Man, I met him at BGG and played with him at the poker tournament. He is just he looks like a cherub. He looks like an angel. The man has gold hair, and he's very nice, and he's both the artist and the designer. So he's got that problem. I think that's why he was so chill, is that he's also the artist that will answer, and he just works for himself. Anyways, so there's studios like that, like Red Raven and all that they came out of a either a Kickstarter or something of that nature, just success. They're kind of a one-man show and have gone that route of producing games. And so you never know, Cysmic may be the thing that kind of pushes you down that line, and you're able to release several different lines of lighter games. We might get a tiny epic Cysmic in the end.
Exactly. And that's the thing is I think that probably the reason that Ryan is so chill, by the way, I actually played some games with him. He would have no idea who I am. But I actually played some games with him at BGG, just complete happenstance in the hotness room. And I actually went by his booth and saw him there as well. And very, very nice guy, super, super chill. But, I swear he's probably chill because he has full control over everything, and he doesn't have to deal with anybody else. Yes. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do, is be, is kind of be a somewhat of a one-man show. But at the same time, obviously, I know to surround myself with people smarter than me so I can actually get this thing done. But he clearly is a writer, an artist, a designer. He develops a lot of his own stuff, and obviously publishes it. And I mean, that's an amazing set of skills that is all in one individual. And I would never claim to be the next Ryan Lockett by any means, but at the same time, I understand also why he can probably produce this stuff, because he's never worried about, trying to get an artist to fulfill their side of the contract, or trying to worry about, a writer, getting everything done, or a developer to kind of go with the vision and vibe and all that. He doesn't have to worry about any of that. He's just like, yep, okay, This one's ready. Hit print.
Yeah. And you've also seen some of the other success stories out of Kickstarter. Can't remember the guy's name, but he did Project Elite, which is again another game that has way too many minis and dice. It's like here's all these minis, and the mechanics are just throw dice, and it's real time. That game should not have been. No publisher would have picked that up off the beginning of it, just looking at it, but was wildly successful. And also very much in part of Tom Vassel's love of it. And then eventually the designer, if I understand, just kind of got stressed out over the whole Kickstarter project, and afterwards, and was like, I'm just not messing with this again. I'm not doing a reprint. I'm done with it. And Simon picked it up. And I have a Simon version of it. And I found that to be kind of a heartwarming thing in the board gaming industry, where you see somebody who has obviously put out a passion project. Here's this product that everybody loves, but man, there's the hate that is distributed out on Kickstarter and on GameFound. I think it's mainly Kickstarter. I try not to back any games on, I try not to crowdfund anything, but typically that doesn't work out. I end up like averaging just one or two a month. And there's one particular Kickstarter that I was watching that it's already fulfilled. It's just a few months. It's already been funded. It's just a few months before the game starts shipping. And man, people just there's like a brief delay. Like the boat from China didn't get here on time. And there's people just harassing. And I'm like, man, this is why I couldn't do this. This would push me over the edge. And so it's like this thing of there's people like me who back a game and I forget about it. Kickstarting a game for me, or founding a game for me is I love forgetting about it. I love just having something come in the mail and be like, what got shipped to me? I don't watch it. I forget about it. But other people just seem to really harp on it and go crazy. And so I think that's the biggest stressor, which you're rapidly approaching now, since you're just a week away from it being, the campaign ending. You're already at $170,000, which is an obscene amount of money for a first time, project and Kickstarter. And so, yeah, it seems like you found your audience there at GameFound, like all the hardcore, the hardcore mini painters and gamers wanting a gratuitous box of minis, that you went to the right spot. There is not, I guarantee you, there is not one clean shaven person. These are all neckbeards that that back this game. They've got they're just like me. They've got all their minis stacked up over here that need to be painted. And that gremlin that whispers in our ear of, hey, you could paint that. You need that to paint. And to back something, I could use some minis, and you talk yourself into buying something so that you can just paint the minis. Well, and then you see all these gray things that are lying around that you haven't got painted. So yeah, you found your audience, and it seems like the project itself has been wildly successful for a first time, for your first real project here that wasn't fraught with technical difficulties. And so I'm super pleased. I think it's rather inspiring for first time designers to see that and to be able to look at their own projects.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, I'm just unbelievably lucky about how all this has come around. And, I say that, but again, it may to some look like it was an overnight success, but at the same time, holy cow, it's been 8 years. Of course, I went through the crowdfunding, part of this already, and it was disastrous for me on so many levels. So it really is nice to finally feel like I did everything right. You didn't go out there to try to, make any enemies or be mean to anybody or whatever. The one thing I will tell you is that if you've been following the campaign at all, even if I messed everything else up, the one thing that I nobody can take away from me is the pride that I have in the community comments underneath my campaign. You will literally not find a negative comment or an argument happening or anything, not just from me, but from anybody to anybody else, because the kind of vibe and the kind of like community that I wanted there, even people who were not backers yet, I would kind of tease a bit in the comments and just say, man, what do I need to do to win you over? And otherwise, if you're, in another campaign, when you see creators, and somebody asks something, if they're not a backer already or whatever, or if they even, mention something that is even slightly critical, the creator immediately comes across defensive, or they ignore it, which is even worse sometimes, because then other people just pile on. And I have been 100% upfront about all of that. And I tell people right away, even somebody who says, this game's not for me. And, of course, other people would be like, well, then why the heck are you in the comments? I love that they're in the comments. I love that they're participating in the campaign. And I have been able to turn around just with a kind response. I've been able to turn around people who showed up to the campaign with a chip on their shoulder or some kind of, expectation that this was just going to be another, aggressive cash grab kind of thing or whatever. And I have felt so good that some of these people were like, wow, you actually just gave me a rational response. And I was like, yes, why would I not? So I do recommend that if you're ever going to get into crowdfunding, that is absolutely the way you have to look at it. You cannot engage any kind of level of critique or aggression with the same reciprocation. You have to be open-minded. You have to understand their point of view. And games are expensive. Cysmic is very expensive. And when somebody says this game's not for me, or hey, why do you want all this money? Explain to me why this game should cost so much. And that's exactly what I did in my updates. I explained literally where every dollar is going. And of course, a lot of people came around and they were like, oh my gosh, yeah, wow. Now I understand. I wish other people had told me this about crowdfunding. And I'm like, oh, I don't know why they don't. So the community that is in the Seismic campaign has got to be one of the most positive I've ever even seen, much less been a part of in any crowdfunding project. And that's something that nobody can ever take away from me. I feel so good about it.
Oh, yeah. And I've been following your comments as well. You've got the people demanding a German edition of it as well. Yeah. So that's yeah. And the Minnesota Killjoy update is worth reading just as the craziness that takes place in this industry. Anyways.
People have no idea what creators go through to bring these games to market. There is no way that I would ever. I don't think I would have the stomach for it myself. But seeing people who have gone through that and had every
everyone, you're trying to manage this thing for, I saw Dan Hughes, just, he kickstarted his game, Core Quest, and just watching that campaign and seeing that develop over a long period of time and how much time and effort it took. And there's not a lot of monetary gain from it. You're doing this as a passion project. There is nothing else. I don't think there is another industry where somebody can wake up one day and go, "What? I want to make this thing." And I think a certain amount of people will like it. And I am going to pull my hair out and have sleepless nights and anxiety, and then spend the next 6 months talking to just strangers on the internet and answering their questions and dealing with problems to bring something to them that I have made, and maybe break even on this. I mean, it's such an odd thing, and this is a phenomenon that only exists in board gaming. Nobody else. I think we're all masochists. I don't think anybody else would do this. I mean, if you went up to a game designer and like a video game designer and say, "Hey, would you like to work on something by yourself?" For some of these games take years of design work and play testing, and then go, okay, and now hopefully one day somebody might play it. And, hopefully there'll be an audience for it, but you're not going to you can't make a living off doing this, by the way, unless you get really good at it, or you make some sort of mass market thing that somebody will pick up and send the target, another, Cards Against Humanity. And there you go. It's such an interesting thing that it's a creative endeavor, but it requires such a strong constitution, I guess is what I'm trying to say. That all it's done is prove to me is that watching these Kickstarters and Game Found is that if I ever design a game, I'm selling it to a publisher. I ain't doing this. And so it brought me a lot of joy, I guess, to see your game. As soon as I started seeing the advertisements on Facebook and everything, I watched it with great curiosity to see how in the world is this going to work. And then, man, this funding goes super high, but you got like 50,000 within the first 48 hours or something of that nature. And then this is not my game. It's like, I'm just watching it. And every day it seemed like I would get on and refresh to see he gained, see how many more, see how far it's come. And I'm watching. And strangely enough, I hope it wasn't me, but I think it was on a Tuesday that it funded. And I just remember I pulled up my phone for something and it literally hit refresh and it went from it just hit its stretch goal. It just hit its funding level. It hit 160,000. And I immediately messaged you. And as soon as I did that, I thought, oh man, this is 7:00 at night. I hope I'm not the person that just hey, congratulations. That I just sent you a message, you're doing something and you're, it's I ruined a special moment of hey, yeah, good job. I'm sure they send you an email when it funds or something. But anyways, so I think this whole story is kind of inspirational to everybody out there who's got an idea, a passion project, and can see that something like this although it may take 8 years and cost you your hairline, but you can do it. You can do it.
Yeah, I completely agree. It is not for everybody. I am kind of like a dog with a bone, I guess. It's it's one of those. One of those it's almost like an earworm. It's in your head. You got this idea. You want to bring it to life. And the thing is I did. I made my own prototype. I mean, my game group plays it. They love it. Everybody who's ever played it at conventions loves it. And, the validation that I made something that people like already is there, but trying to get it on the tables of hundreds or thousands of people that's the ultimate goal, because what I want to do, and like you say, it's so absurd. It's really just sheer insanity that somebody would spend so much time, me included, any designer, but me included in this. It is so absurd that you would spend so much time, effort, and money to do something like this for the idea that, all you're doing is trying to bring the entertainment of this thing you've created to somebody else somewhere else in the world. Because that is it. There is no reward. I can tell you I've spent more money than I will ever make back, particularly on Cysmic. And I mean, obviously, if I can ever make some more games that have an actual profit margin, then that would be
no minis. I think you should chill out on the minis. If I was a financial advisor, that would be the first thing I'd tell you is the next game should maybe a few cubes, some cards, and just go from there.
It's only euros for me. Only late 90s euros. I'll pour some mustard on the board and put some wooden cubes, and then that'll be it. That'll.
I'll tell you what. I'll go 50-50 on you for the Cysmic roll and ride. I'll develop it. And it'll just be, you just need a pencil, a dice, and I'll figure it out. We'll be all right.
Fantastic. It's
and watch what, and that will be the one that goes to the Spiel des Jahres. That's the one that'll get that takes traction.
That'll be the $5 million game.
Yeah, that's the one. You've got Gloomhaven, and then you've got Cysmic, the roll and ride. Yeah. That's that. Oh, that always gets me. That always gets me when that you see these games that have very little, but yet they have such a great success, and it's just because of one little twist. And I'm like, and then you got the ones with all the minis that take forever to make the mold and all that. Anyways, but that's the industry. Well, Jason, it was nice having you on. I'm glad we got to meet you. I'm glad that you I think I was kind of just watching this whole game found situation with your game with Cysmic, and I was impressed just seeing it, how it worked out. I'm so glad. I remember when I first messaged you about coming on the show, being like, "Hey, you're getting close. Maybe you can come on our show, and maybe that'll push you over the edge." But you've already funded. You're at 170-something thousand now, so you're well above that. So this is just a post-mortem of the campaign, basically. You've got another week before you're done, but you've already crossed the finish line.
Absolutely.
So that's very good. That's very good.
Well, Jerry, thanks so much. Yeah, I can't thank you enough. I mean, not only just for being on today and you allowing me just even this little extra exposure here near the end of the campaign is amazing. But, also really, I sincerely thank you for taking the time at the convention. I know, you're there just like I am to play games, to try new things, to check out stuff. And, here's this whack job that you never met before. I've got my game set up out there, and you and Gabi come over and you're both staring at it and you're just like, oh man, I don't know. But you know what? You took the time and you sat down and you gave it a shot. And man, I cannot thank you enough for that, because everybody's time is valuable. And I really do appreciate you spending the time and connecting with me there at BGG. And every time I see you now at BGG, I always got to come up and say hi. So yeah, I thank you so much. I really do appreciate you having me on.
Well, I appreciate you, and I love playing people's pet projects. I love it, and that's always the ones that you see at the conventions. These people that have their prototypes out and what they're
Yep.
you can see that they're passionate about something. And it was very obvious when you said, "Hi, if I'm not mistaken, we were walking by you in the main auditorium and you had your Cysmic shirt on."
Yes.
You were advertising for the game. You're like, "Hey, I want to play a game. I'm making a game." I'm like, "Sure, let's play it." And then I remember the box coming out and I'm thinking, "Oh man, this is going to be all day." And this is not and as you're setting it up, he's like, this is a dual layer board. I've got to put these down. And I'm like, this is way, it's almost, I was looking for a camera. Like, is this a joke? Like, you remember Parks? Yeah, Parks and Recreations, if you're familiar with that. Yeah. The cones game where they have all those. Yeah, I'm sitting there. Yeah, I'm looking around like, you got the cones of Dutchshire. I was like, this is a joke. This is a mean joke where this guy's going to set this up and get it going and be like, here, you have to make this decision. And then, about halfway through the game, about a few minutes into it, be like, oh, this game's 4 hours long. We're not even halfway done. And I wasn't sure I hadn't been had, that this wasn't some, anyways. But anyways, Jason, well, I'm going to let you go. I appreciate you coming on.
Okay. Thanks again, Jerry. I really, really do appreciate it.